Oh god, I just came from the future and the robots have taken over and they're already... Actually, you know what? Let's stick with the battles of the past first. So history is riddled with battles of all kinds, from small to large, from civil to international. And many of these wars have been prominent, going down in the history books as an important event in human history. But out of all of the wars that have ever occurred, there are some battles whose outcome has had a profound impact on the course of human history. So in this video, I gathered those battles from the past that have altered the world. So here they are, 10 epic battles that changed history forever. Number 1 is the Battle of Marathon. The Battle of Marathon took place in 490 BC during the first ever Persian invasion of Greece. In an attempt to subjugate Greece, Persian forces under the rule of King Darius I attacked the Greeks with a huge army of 20,000 infantry and cavalry, greatly outnumbering them. However, despite being outnumbered, the Greeks led a forward attack that caused the Persians to panic and flee to their ships. More than 6,000 Persians were slaughtered compared to only 200 Greeks. This landmark victory showed the Greeks that the Persians could in fact be beaten, leading to the eventual Greek triumph over the Greco-Persian Wars, forever becoming a pivotal moment in European history. Interestingly, the legend of the Greek messenger Theodippides running to Athens with news of the victory became the inspiration for the first ever marathon introduced in the 1896 Athens Olympics. Of course, the definition of a marathon has changed a bit since then. I mean, the only marathons I participate in are Netflix related. Number 2 is the Battle of Hastings. For a long time, between the 8th and 9th centuries, England purposefully isolated itself so as to not get involved in the many wars that were occurring in the rest of Europe. That was until 1066 when Norman invader William the Conqueror set his sights on the island and decided it was time to invade. Along with a huge army, William succeeded in invading England and on Christmas Day was crowned King William I, marking the first time ever that a foreign ruler was on the English throne. This battle officially ended the Anglo-Saxon rule of England and was the last time that an army would successfully invade the country. Interestingly, several French words were integrated into English, dramatically changing the language forever. You know, I still don't understand why the French language has male and female words. That has never made sense to me. Show me one verb with a penis. Number 3 is the Siege of Orleans. For 116 years, the rulers of the Kingdom of England and the rulers of the Kingdom of France battled in a series of conflicts known as the 100 Years' War. However, in 1429, the French finally defeated the English at the Siege of Orleans, largely because of Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was a teenage peasant whose visions of God led her to fight in the war, ultimately rallying the citizens and using tactical moves to defeat the invaders. The win boosted the morale for the dispirited French who had been previously badly beaten by Henry IV. This battle saved France from centuries of English rule and solidified Joan of Arc as one of the most famous females in history. To put what she did into perspective, for 6 months the English had been winning and their siege collapsed only 9 days after her arrival. Damn, that's a bad bitch! And y'all idolize Beyonce. Psh, get your priorities straight. Number 4 is the Battle of Tours. Between the 6th and 7th centuries, Muslim armies were a powerhouse that routinely toppled superpowers, claiming massive swaths of land in the process. As they conquered southern Spain and advanced into France, they began to take Western Europe. However, in 732 AD, when their armies reached Tours, France, they met Charles the Hammer Martel, a Frankish statesman and military leader. Martel, leading a mostly unarmored army, held their ground against the Muslims and eventually captured and killed their leader, forcing their armies to retreat. Had Martel been defeated, there was no other armies to check the invaders as they entered Western Europe, meaning that Islam would have become the dominant religion in Europe instead of Christianity. That is not someone you want to mess with. The Hammer? He sounds really tough. Well, that or he was blessed. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about. Number 5 is the Battle of Yorktown. The Battle of Yorktown was a conflict that occurred on October 19, 1781 between the combined forces of the American Continental Army troops and the French troops against the British forces. Under the command of General George Washington, the colonists became a fairly efficient fighting machine, and that, combined with help from the French, resulted in the last major conflict of the American Revolutionary War. After being flanked by the French naval fleet at sea and American forces on land, Franco-American forces captured British General Charles Cornwallis and his army, forcing them to retreat from the American colonies. The battle boosted faltering American morale, ultimately paving the way for the United States of America to be born. For those of you that didn't pay attention in history class, now you know why this guy is on the $1 bill. if you're in America. If you're in Canada, we have a coin, and there's a loon on it. That must have been one badass loon. Number 6 is the Battle of Poltava. In the early 1700s, Russia and Sweden were fighting over who would become the next great regional power player. At the time, Sweden, which controlled most of Northern Europe, was seeking to expand into Russia. And on June 27, 1709, the Swedes surged into Russia, causing a brutal and bloody battle. However, the Swedes were no match for Russian forces, and within only one day, the Russians had defeated them. This was a significant event because it was the beginning of Sweden's decline as a great power, marked by Russia taking its place as a leading nation in northeastern Europe. It's weird to me to think of Sweden as a great power. I mean, they're those peaceful blonde people that yodel. My, how times change. Number 7 is the Battle of Stalingrad. Everyone knows that the invasion of Normandy marked the Nazis' decline in power. However, the Battle of Stalingrad was the defeat that effectively ended Hitler's quest for world domination and sent Germany down the long road towards defeat in World War II. The 5-month siege of Stalingrad was one of the most pivotal and dramatic events of World War II. Russian soldiers, as well as volunteer citizens, some with no weapons, mounted a counteroffensive that trapped the Nazis in Stalingrad, leading to a battle that lasted for months. Nearly 2 million people died in that siege, and by February of 1943, the Nazis were out of both food and ammunition and had to surrender. After Stalingrad, the Germans no longer advanced on the eastern front of the war and just went back to eating sauerkraut, sausages, and beer. Actually, World War II went on for 2 more years, but then they chilled out. Number 8 is the Battle of Tsushima. In 1905, Japan and Russia fought a major naval battle that became known as one of the most decisive sea battles in history. Known as the First Great War of the 20th century, the Russo-Japanese War was a contest to see who would win power over the strait between Korea and Japan. It ended in a decisive victory for Japan with what would eventually turn them into a key power player during World War II. This was actually the first time that electronic communication was used in battle and resulted in the almost complete destruction of the Russian Navy. This is because the Japanese were using their own wireless system while the Russians were using German sets and had difficulty in their use and maintenance. Man, Russia, you spend too much time developing good vodka and not enough on technology. Although, I'm not complaining. I loves me some good Russian vodka. Number 9 is the Battle of Metaurus. The Punic Wars were a series of 3 wars between the world's greatest superpowers, Rome and Carthage, between 264 and 146 BC. At the time, they were the largest wars that have ever taken place. The Battle of Metaurus refers to a pivotal battle during the Second War. Hannibal Barca, general of the Carthaginian army, had his brother Hasdrubal face off against the Roman consul Nero, but lost. Had Hasdrubal won and reunited with Hannibal, Rome would have certainly fallen. Instead, the Romans later defeated Hannibal, which is why today we talk about the Romans, not the Carthaginians. I'd like to also point out that Nero had famously had Hasdrubal beheaded and his head thrown into Hannibal's camp. Yeah, being a sore winner is a real thing. And number 10, the Battle of Valmy. After the French Revolution, there were a number of revolutionary battles over French territory. In 1792, the German Kingdom of Prussia attempted to conquer France, who was weakened at the time, but during their invasion, they were met by French forces. But despite having just come out of a revolution with no stable government structure and being completely outnumbered and outgunned, they defeated the Prussians, forcing them to retreat. This victory made the world take the new France seriously. In addition, many people see it as the first victory by an army inspired purely by the pursuit of liberty. Hey man, have you ever had a croissant? That buttery pastry of deliciousness. I'd fight to the death for that too. And that's it for this time, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I just wanted to remind you that I have a second channel, so if you haven't checked that out yet, now would be a perfect time because we are about to hit 500,000 subscribers. It's a really fun channel where I do all kinds of stuff like product reviews, unboxings, daily vlogs, and I even open your mail. So if you'd like to subscribe for more content from me, be sure to click the link in the description or the annotation on the screen. It's a lot of fun. As always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give that like button a click, and if you'd like to see future videos from me, be sure to click that red subscribe button below because I upload every Tuesday and Saturday. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you later on my social media and on my second channel. Peace.